Hi, so very quickly back with another video yet again, 2 in 2 weeks. I'm really on fire at the moment. It's time to talk about Matt Smith, the 11th, 12th, whatever Doctor Who. One who was there for the 50th anniversary, the youngest one. I must admit, obviously one of the signs where people start to feel they're getting old is when Doctor Who, James Bond, the actors playing these parts are suddenly younger than you. I did not expect Doctor Who to become a younger actor than me when I was only 29. That was quite a depressing day in my life. And it did seem almost slightly worrying, Custard, to go that young. Especially with such a completely... Oh, sorry, that's my cat. Hello. Say hello. Oh, with such a completely unknown... relatively unknown actor who hadn't done very much. Say hello, give a little wave. Oh, you were happy to get some attention by biting me, weren't you? No? Ah. See, this is what makes will make my future videos better, having a cat in them. A slightly reluctant, sad cat. She's a very happy cat, really. We don't mistreat her at all. Anyone who says otherwise is a liar. The youngest Doctor, so that was very impressive for me at the time, him coming along. And didn't really know anything about him. I've been aware of David Tennant beforehand. So it was sort of a completely unknown quantity, which was actually really exciting. I didn't go out to search out any of his other roles, even for one where he has sex with Billy Piper. Went into the 11th hour, really not sure what he was going to be like. And, you know, was very impressed. You could see why they went with him, even though Moff had been fairly firm about wanting a older actor beforehand. And, yes, hello, yes, coming back for more attention. This is going to be a very cat-themed video. She's out to kill. Obviously, she's not a Matt Smith fan. It's just a really great first episode for him. It absolutely hits all the beats. Karen Gillian's great in it. Arthur Duvall's great in it. It's smart, it's fast, it's pacey. It's just a really top-notch introductory episode to the new Doctor. And it makes you feel right off the bat, hey, we were right about Stephen Moffat. He's really going to run this show incredibly well. Next few weeks, more troublesome. People don't seem to like The Beast Below very much. I think it's okay. It's got the Demon Head Master in it. What more do you want from an hour of television? Victory of the Daleks is a main week one for that first season. That's the point where people really started to turn against Mark Gatiss as a writer. He tends to get a lot of slack from fans. It's just not a very good episode. It can't really do the friendly Daleks thing properly because it doesn't have enough time to develop it. They're basically pretend to be nice for all of 5 minutes. And the Fatlicks look awful. They're one of a couple of attempts in that season to reinvent a monster that doesn't really work. It's sort of telling they use them a bit subsequently because they paint them with props, but as we stand now, 5 years later, it looks like those props have been completely dropped. When they needed loads of Daleks in Time of the Doctor, Into the Dalek, for the action scenes, they didn't use them, you know, just even to pad out the crowd like they had in Asylum of the Daleks. That's a total design failure there. The other big weak story of that season is the Silurian two-parter. Chris Chibnall isn't particularly one of my favourite writers. It's quite amusing if you look up those clips of him slagging off Pip and Jane Baker back in the 80s, because frankly his writing is usually much worse. But the Silurian story doesn't work for various reasons. First, it's just a straight-up rewrite of the Silurians, the Sea Devils and Warriors of the Deep. Fourth time round, they needed something new to do with the Silurians. And as with Warriors of the Deep, the Doctor keeps going on about how great and noble and brilliant the Silurians are, but they are acting like dicks throughout the entire story. It just doesn't work. You know, the humans are basically innocent people in that story. They didn't know there were Silurians under the ground. They probably would have tried to hurt them if they'd known there were living creatures down there, especially more scientifically minded amongst them. So the Silurian response of trapping them in a dome and then trying to destroy the entire species is way over the top. And the Doctor's been incredibly one-sided in favour of Silurians. It's just totally bizarre. Especially the sort of Dr. Mengele-style evil experimenter one, who he's incredibly bally with, and everybody acts like he's a great guy at the end, for some really odd, hard-to-fathom reason. Well, on the other side of things, the humans are under attack and dying, and every time they say, well, can we defend ourselves, the Doctor acts like they're worse than Hitler. It's just a very poor story. But overall, though, despite that, those week 4 episodes, it's a generally pretty solid season. Matt Smith's first one. The Angel Super-Arter is very good. Find something interesting to do with them. My particular favourite episode, though, of that entire season is one I wasn't expected to like when it first, before it aired, and that's The Lodger. It's really like Gareth Roberts, his Russell T Davies era scripts, I think were particularly up to much. But he's very much found a groove working under Stephen Moffat that really works. The Lodger is a fantastic episode. It's funny, it's smart. James Corden, who sort of going into it because he has a bit of a reputation of being a bit of a dick in real life. Whether that's justified or not, I don't know. But other celebrities don't tend to like him very much in a sort of Peter Kay way. But he's great in it. He's funny. The plot works really well. It's kind of a shame they didn't use Meglos as they originally planned, but as the gag would have been, the Doctor didn't remember Meglos. Perhaps that was a bit unfair. Of a mistake, because obviously the Doctor's memories of his adventures are going to be a bit sporadic, but equally, the day a cactus turned into your doppelganger, you're going to remember that. Whether it's a good story, objectively or not, it has to be something that stands out in your mind. So that gag might have been a bit cruel, but it's a very nice episode that works on just about every level. It's season final by itself is a good season final. The Big Bang and Dog opens. It does involve what is the worst example of when people talk about River Song being a self-insertion, Mary Sue style character, when the Dalek absolutely shits its pants when she introduces herself in a way that it's just cringe-inducing. Oh yeah, she's so cool, she scares the Daleks. That's probably the worst bit of writing River ever had. But overall, it's a nice, enjoyable story. It's kind of a shame all that stuff with the stars going out and vanishing happens in it, when that also happened in the previous season final, even though that was more than a year beforehand, thanks for gap year. But it does set an unfortunate precedent for Stephen Moffat season finals. And all 3 of his Matt Smith season finals, the proper season finals rather than the like the half-year finals. It gets a bit confusing about how the seasons work after this, as I'll talk about in a minute. But all 3 of his main Matt Smith season finals have exactly the same plot. A villain sets a trap for the Doctor that is supposed to destroy the Doctor, but instead destroys the entire universe, and he has to do something to save it. And of those 3 finals, it's only the Great Intelligence in the 3rd one where the destruction of the universe as a side effect was intended. Silence, in the first 2 attempts, they buggered up quite badly there in their attempts, especially they were trying to stop the destruction of the universe, and instead winded up causing it. It's just the same thing 3 times in a row, and it gets quite dull. It feels much like, even more than something like T. Davis, it feels like Moff doesn't have that much interest or investment in the season finals. Here we go, another one about the destruction of the universe. I'll do that again. That kind of worked last time. A trap, yeah, I don't know if that'll be alright. So, what can go wrong? So that's sort of a big weakness of the Matt Smith years. Second season is where things start to fall off the rails a bit, mainly because of the River Song backstory. As soon as the idea the name Amy Pond was revealed, everyone was going, oh, she'll be River Song's mom. That would be the twist there. Is it that, or she will be River Song, or those are the two theories. So it turned out that River is exactly what everyone assumed the year before. Well, it's going to be hard to make that dramatic and exciting reveal, but it's just also a very dark story. You know, Amy and Rory lose their baby. The show can't, it's a fun family children's show. It cannot properly deal with that. They basically have to get over it almost immediately and act in a way that's totally unlike how anybody would act in that situation. The only episode of their entire time that actually tries to deal with it is Asylum of the Daleks. And that introduces a problem there of them having split up and solves it in 45 minutes as if to go, well, here's how we're dealing with this in a slightly odd way related to their marriage. And it's too little too late. And of course you can say, well, Doctor Who isn't really the programme that can deal with, you know, basically losing a baby in a proper way, but equally, if the show can't do that, it shouldn't have started that plot. All of their reactions after they find out about River and how they're never going to see their baby again, and their completely random new friend who turns out to be River all along, which feels like a desperate attempt to... Fat Mel's had never been mentioned before, does feel like a desperate attempt to go, oh shit, no, she was there all along and she grew up with them, so it was like they raised her. Does that deal with it? And no, it doesn't deal with it. It just completely falls apart. Which is a shame because, you know, the opening two-parter with Silence is quite good. Doesn't make any sense in retrospect when you think back on it, especially, you know, the Silence, their entire mission is to kill Doctor Who. They want him dead. He can't see them. All they have to do is go up, stand behind him, shoot him in the back of the head, they keep shooting him in the back of the head every time he tries to regenerate. There'd be nothing he can do to stop that. They don't need the elaborate saying, like we're stealing Amy and Rory's baby. It just doesn't work on even the slightest level. Other than that, it's quite a nice little episode. Mark Sheppard's great in it, Richard Nixon's very funny, and part of that sort of strange revisionism of Nixon that's gone on in the last few years, where now he's a funny president who we all sort of kind of like. Days of Future Past treated him kind of the same as well. He was a lovable, buffoonish president. But because of the River Song thing running through that season, it does feel a bit all over the place. Many of the episodes are only sort of okay. I know a few people who sort of drifted out of watching around this point because they got bored with it. The Pirate episode's a bit dull. The Gagger episode's pretty good. Quite like the Rebel Flesh and the Almost People. That's quite a nice, tense, fun little story. It's doing something a bit different. And A Good Man Goes to War has a big advantage of introducing the Paternoster Gang, even though he didn't really know he was doing that at the time. Jenny, Vastra and Strax are all great characters, and special props to Strax for being a one-joke character who makes a joke work. He just milks it to the hilt. Thankfully, you know, his appearances are spread out enough. If it was in every episode, it would probably become tiresome, but sort of once or twice a year. It's hilarious. I love all the stuff with him, and Dan Starkey does that brilliantly. Vastra makes Silurians work their new design by having a new idea of them. Because I don't ignore the fact she's supposed to be a Silurian, because it doesn't do the whole bitter and twisted about humans taking over the planet thing, so getting over the sort of sub-Deep Space Nine lizard person costume. But is it anywhere as good as the original Silurians? And to go back to the Silurian story, their look is a problem there, because it again misses a point that you're not supposed to empathise with them. Humans are supposed to find them strange and alien. It sort of actually works against the moral message of every Silurian story, that some costume designer thought, oh, I need to anthropomorphise these a bit more so we can care about them and read their emotions. But it works for Astra. They're great characters. The whole season just... the break doesn't really work. Let's Kill Hitler is, again, because of a river thing, doesn't really work as an episode. A lot of stuff there feels pulled out of the Moffat's ass at the last second to try and explain things. It's sort of actually quite hard to remember what happens in the rest of that second season. It feels the best episode there is probably the Mark Gatiss one of a council estate, because for the first time in modern Doctor Who, you've got a council estate that feels like an actual council estate, like what I'm recording this video in now. And yeah, it's sort of the obvious kids' dreams come to life stuff, but it's nicely done, and it's got Optimus Prime in it, which is always good for a laugh if you're a Transformers fan like me. But the rest of that back end of the season is pretty average and forgettable, and it's then sort of the problems kick in. Mainly because, of course, with the God Complex, Amy and Rory leave. That is effectively their last story, and it's a good departure. In a sort of okay episode, would have been better if it had been an actual Naimon. It does feel a bit cheeky to go, oh, it's a relative of a Naimon. I wonder if Anthony Reid actually got paid for that. Do you get paid if someone introduces a relative of a monster you created? But yeah, their motivation for leaving feels solid. And if they'd left then, that would have been great. But they don't. They stick around for another half year. And in a slightly half-hearted way. And it dampens their characters. They're done and dusted at that point. And you want a bit wishing that they would leave, which is a shame, because again, Karen and Arthur are both fantastic in the parts, but there's nothing they can do with them after that. So you sort of got a three-man TARDIS crew, where 2/3 of them are now redundant characters, and that hurts everything that comes after as well. And then you into the tricky stuff, where all sorts of behind-the-scenes problems, you will be erased from the history of Doctor Who, executive producers leaving, suddenly struggling to make episodes, and slightly unconvincing excuses for delays and moves in transmissions. Oh, we're going to have a split season, so there'll be Doctor Who all year, but and now we're only going to have 6 episodes next year, and 7 episodes the year after, and yeah, he was doing Sherlock at the same time, and you could argue that these are 2 key BBC shows, and it's better that he sort of Moffat makes as many episodes as he can make well, rather than just making a lot of episodes badly. But equally, if he can't run 2 TV shows at once, well, he should have been running 2 TV series at once. And he's not making less episodes of Doctor Who well. This is the weakest era of his run. Most of season 7, and it's 2 seasons. It's sort of season 7 and season 8. 2 very short seasons. Brooke, Asmonds apart, made separately, 2 different blocks. Change of cast at midway points, so with everyone leaving except Matt. And even a new regular set introduced for the second half. To all intents and purposes, it is just 2 different seasons. However much I might pretend otherwise. The first half is the weakest. Really struggling to think of an especially good episode. Even the Time of the Angels is a way of writing out Amy and Rory doesn't really make any sense. Who runs that hotel the Angels send their victims to? Who pays the bills? Who fixes the wiring when it goes, and changes the light bulbs, and cleans the toilets? How do the Angels manage that? There's also sort of that point where you're at the third Matt Smith story to be set in America. The attempts to sort of get the Americans on board start to feel a bit tiresome, especially because presumably what Americans like about Doctor Who is his Britishness. What I said in the last video was that Matt Smith, David Tennant was a big Doctor in this country, but Matt Smith is the first one who sort of made it in America in a very sort of low-key 2 million viewers on BBC America sort of way. It's sort of how NCIS is in this country. Sort of in America, it's one of the #1 TV programmes. Over here, it's on Channel 5, 6 people watch it. Doctor Who now has that sort of level of success in America, and it does feel like they chase that a bit too hard in the Matt Smith run. There's fairly small returns, really. The second half of the season, though, generally swings around a bit better. The mystery about Clara is interesting. The Snowman is the best Matt Smith Christmas special, in my opinion. And the others are just, well, the other two ones before this last one are sort of okay. I think A Christmas Carol is overrated, and The Widow, The Wardrobe of the Doctor is slightly underrated. But it's very watchable. But The Snowman is great fun, and again, the Paternoster gang are great in that. Absolutely hilarious. Richard E. Grant is great. And of course, the fanboy glee of the Great Intelligence being brought back. That is absolutely fantastic and a real hell yeah moment. And the sort of mad idea that the big Christmas Day BBC One programming is Richard E. Grant and Ian McKellen playing the Great Intelligence. Nobody would have ever thought that would ever happen 10 years ago. And the mystery with Clara is quite interesting. And unlike the River Song thing and a few of the other plots, it's something that you couldn't really guess beforehand, but when it's eventually explained, it clicks and it makes sense. And you go, oh yeah, that works. It's got its own internal logic. The Bells of St. John, as an introduction to the proper Clara, is a great episode as well. Best episode in over a year, really. Really hits the ground running. And most of the episodes of that back end are better. My two favourites actually the two Mark Gatiss ones, Cold War and The Crimson Horror. They are just such fantastically brilliant fun. Gatiss absolutely knocks it out of the park. I'm actually one of the people who wouldn't be that bothered if Mark Gatiss became the next showrunner. I know a lot of the diehard fans don't particularly like him or his writing, but I think he managed okay. I don't think he'll do it. I think he will get first refusal on it, but I think he'll decide to just be an occasional writer who keeps his other projects on the go. But I would have fun with him taking over. And the name of the Doctor is, despite being the same plot again, the best of all of the Moffat's finals to date. It is certainly the best Matt Smith final. Again, great intelligence, that's quite gleeful. But all the Doctors as well, and smart use of stock footage from old episodes. The explanation for Clara is good. Well-paced, fast episode. Kind of a shame we didn't get the Yeti as the Great Intelligence's monsters instead of a Whispermen. But it's just such a nice, fast, fun episode. And they explained the Dragonfire cliffhanger. 25 years later, who would have thought Doctor Who back as a big primetime hit, explaining why Sylvester McCoy hung off a cliff for no reason at the end of Dragonfire Part 1. That is a glorious fanboy pump the air moment. Kind of a shame you don't get a really good look at Paul McGann in that scene. He sort of skips by quickly, but I suppose he makes up for that in The Night of the Doctor. And again, a Paul McGann regeneration episode. How absolutely extraordinary is that? 5 minutes long, but it pacey, hits all the beats. Beyond the fanboyish glee moments of seeing Paul McGann name-check all his audio companions, it actually does something important for the 50th anniversary special. It's setting up the introduction of John Hurt. And it's a great little story and it works well. It's a better regeneration episode than Matt Smith got the same year, and he had an hour to do that in. Which is the Day of the Doctor, the big anniversary special. And that is going into that after a fairly mediocre, well, more than a year. I wasn't expecting very much even after Night of the Doctor turned up, Name of the Doctor. I got a feeling I'd call that Night of the Doctor again earlier, didn't I? That was quite a poor mistake. It was a cat. She distracted me. Even despite Name of the Doctor rallying round, I was not expecting much from the special. But it is absolutely fantastic. Certainly the best multi-Doctor story by a comfortable margin. Even now, nearly 2 years later, it still stands up absolutely fantastically. The only real flaw is it could have done with a line at the end explaining exactly what happened with the Zygon plot, because that basically gets forgotten about once they start talking. But everything he does brilliantly. Matt Smith and David Tennant are both fantastic in it. John Hurt as well. Now, a lot of people complain about them not using Eccleston or McGann for that role. Slightly unrealistic in the case of Eccleston, because most of the expectation seems to have been that Moffat should have done whatever Eccleston wanted to do the episode, even if Eccleston didn't really want to do it. And people slag off Eccleston for not doing it. Personally, you know, what Eccleston signed up for was a year's work. He did the best he could with that year's work. A lot of people love it. I think he's okay with the part. He's not obliged to keep him back if he doesn't want to. They tried to persuade him, but he at least thought about it. Didn't work out. It's possible he would have been able to do it because of the dates with 4. It's slightly confusing whether that is the case or not, whether that was just an excuse being offered up at the time. Certainly David Tennant admitted that he was only off of a special very late in the day, and it's basically lucky he had it already signed up to do something else. It was 3 other dates. But I would rather, you know, Eccleston, he does roles for the money. 4-2 being one of those. Performance of that film is terrible. Generally, if he's just doing it for the cash, he's not very good. So if he comes back to Doctor Who in the future, I want him to do it because he's happy to do Doctor Who. I don't want him to do it because he wants to shut up people keep asking him if he'll ever come back, or because he wants a paycheck. As for not using McGann, again, people can't assume that McGann would have wanted to do it. You know, he only did Night of the Doctor after he phoned up Nick Briggs and said, "Do you think I should do it?" He wasn't sure. Would he have committed to more than a day's filming to do an entire special? That's hard to be sure. And also taking advantage of that unseen gap to create an entirely new Doctor. A, it's pure fanbank. B, it doesn't really work with anything that's been established in the previous episodes. All those Doctor montages of the new series has done. None of them make any sense, especially the one in the next Doctor, because that montage was created by the Daleks. The Daleks aren't going to care if he did call himself the Doctor. They'd have put John Hurt in there. In fact, the one who should be missing from that montage is Christopher Eccleston, because it turns out that he killed every Dalek he ever met. So they never have a chance to record his image and put him in a loop of a Doctor montage. Even as recently, in fact, as Nightmare in Silver. There's a Doctor montage of that 2 episodes before Day of the Doctor, and they don't even imply it slightly, but having a serious gap between McGann and Eccleston. So it's a complete aspal, but it's an aspal that works because you've got John Hurt, one of the greatest British actors of all time. And you know, John Hurt does a lot of crap for money as well, but he's one of those actors who brings class to it. He never undersells his performance. He's like David Warner. He will do it for the cash, but do it brilliantly. I have no idea how much he particularly cared about doing Doctor Who, but he makes a fantastic Doctor for that hour, and it is a gimmick that works. The other thing we tend to complain about is not having all the old Doctors in it, which I would say is another slightly unfair complaint, because they are all in it, twice. I think them turning up to say Gallifrey works better than them standing in a row at the end, because that Photoshop job doesn't quite work. Especially the really tanned Tom Baker. But if you look at the behind the scenes footage of everybody in the standings wearing their costumes, it's quite funny how much the guy dressed as Chris Eccleston doesn't look like a Doctor. He just looks like some bloke who's wandered in off the set, onto the set. Which sort of explains why you see so few Ninth Doctor cosplayers. And it all works for me. I remember being in the cinema with a packed cinema, all Doctor Who fans, all up for it. When the first Doctor turns up, says Gallifrey for the first time on television, the whole room just went mad, and it was just a fantastic communal experience. And that is just a lovely sequence of the saving of Gallifrey. And the Tom Baker bit, the Tom Baker moment is just a beautiful bit of television. Heartwarming, brings a tear to the eye. Again, the cinema got a massive gasp, even though Tom ruined the fact he was going to be in it a few days beforehand. Not enough, John Hurt also returned beforehand, yeah, played the Doctor. Obviously, these two senior actors, they're not bothered about non-disclosure agreements at their time of life. But in Tom's case, I don't think anyone quite believed him anyway, because he's completely insane. So he didn't really ruin it. It's some beautiful capstones, a fantastic 70-odd minutes of television. That is just lovely. Which then leaves us with Time of the Doctor. Bit of a come down again after the peak of Day of the Doctor. It's just a mess and very languid. It's sort of the idea of youngest Doctor dying of old age is a nice idea. But things trying to explain why the TARDIS exploded 2 years earlier and the whole plot line in a throwaway lines of dialogue is quite annoying. And again, feels like arse pulls. The woman who is written exactly the same way as with the song, and there's a following with the way Moffat writes all his female characters, in terms of the lead ones anyway, in that their dialogue tends to be interchangeable. Amy, River, and Clara all basically talk the same way. As there's this random guest star who has this whole backstory with the Doctor that comes out of nowhere and you're not sure if you're supposed to care about it or not. Doesn't really feel like the Daleks actually try about hard to kill the Doctor, you know, when he's sat there going, oh, go on, kill me then. And they don't, it just makes the Daleks look crap. The Doctor should survive from killing him through his cleverness, not because they're too scared of him to shoot him. Large chunks of it don't really make any sense either. I don't understand why the Time Lords put a truth field on the planet that would make the Doctor say his name, when the whole idea is he will only say his name when it's safe for him to come back. You know, if there's a truth field there and somebody asks him Doctor Who, he's going to say his name whether it's safe for him to come back or not. And in fact, the fact he doesn't say his name when the voice is going Doctor Who, despite the fact he's in a truth field, doesn't really make any sense. It's an episode its own internal logic is completely buggered. Sort of whole idea of him being on his last regeneration. Well, obviously, you know, they didn't know that back when they did a storyline about how the Doctor was definitely going to die in his second season. But of course, because they've done that recently, they can't really do it again. And of course, for that, the two David Tennant's thing, they didn't really need to make that an actual regeneration. They could have had just be the one David Tennant, as was obviously the intent at the time, and not have this be his last life, and then have a bit more gap before they do the, oh, I'm going to die thing again. Instead, they sort of do it, and because they've only recently done that, they can even do it in a half-hearted, throwaway kind of way. It doesn't even get mentioned until the episode's almost over, in a tortuous info dump based on old Doctor Who continuity. That must be quite dull for viewers to watch at the time. And you don't really... This is coming an episode after you've met a future incarnation, two future incarnations, Peter Capaldi and future Tom Baker are in Day of the Doctor. Even more so than usual, trying to do the last generation thing. Well, trying to make you think your lead character's going to die is a tricky thing to pull off for any TV programme. This completely fails to do it on even the most basic level. And the super regeneration at the end is just one of those things where, you know, if getting a Time Lord on their last life and giving them a new generation cycle shoots out so much energy, it can kill hundreds of Daleks and blow up their spaceships, why didn't the Time Lords do that at the Time War? Fucking get a Time Lord, shoot him in the head 12 times, 13th time, put magic pixie dust into him and have him blow up all the Daleks. How did the Time Lords ever lose that war? And the regeneration itself, when he's doing the whole... it's probably the most embarrassingly bad bit of acting from Matt Smith ever. It's just cringe-inducingly annoying and irritating. And he's having to really glue down all that latex probably doesn't help either. Most of his performance under the makeup isn't especially good. What makes up for it though is his actual last scene. Back in the TARDIS, it's a beautifully written, fantastically played moments. Love how he's sort of playing slightly differently to how he normally plays the Doctor as well, and his delivery when he's going, he's a come here, that doesn't really sound like him. That's a very deft little touch as well, and I just love how sudden regeneration is. That works fantastically, doing it in a jump cut. So yeah, poor last episode for him, but fantastic last 2 minutes. So the Matt Smith era. Matt Smith is very good throughout. He absolutely nails the part. He's fantastic, he's funny, he's clever. The supporting cast are all very good, even if, as with Amy and Rory, they're not, towards the end, they're not given the best material. A lot of following is just some other shows organised and being run behind the scenes. A lot of mediocre episodes, a lot of quite bad episodes. Some of the best 2 episodes of the run, and one I didn't mention actually earlier, are, for me, The Lodger and The Doctor's Wife. That's a fantastic episode from Neil Gaiman. Just funny, clever, fast-paced bit of television. It's done brilliantly. The weakest one of this entire run, and again a bit of irony here because it's from the author who wrote one of the best ones, is Nightmare in Silver. Not necessarily because it's completely terrible, but because you basically expected better from Gaiman at that point. It's an episode where it's doing the Locutus and Borg thing with the Doctor, with him basically becoming a Cyberman. Completely misses the point of what works about Locutus, about it dehumanises, strips away your humanity. Becoming a Cyberman should be a terrifying loss of everything you are. It should not turn you into the world's campus Kenneth Williams impersonator. And Matt Smith obviously has no idea how to play any of those scenes, and is his worst moment of his entire time in the show when he's trying to be the half-converted Doctor. But the other than those low points, most of the episodes are sort of okay or forgettable. The best ones are not as good generally as the best ones of the Russell T Davies era, and it's a run of a show that is held together entirely by the lead actors. Other quite good episodes include The Girl Who Waited. The God Complex is okay. Yeah, so you sort of start to run out of especially brilliant episodes, and it's just, well, you sort of sit there and you think, oh, what was that one? Dinosaurs on a spaceship. I suppose that was sort of alrightish. Power of 3. You know, as you sit there thinking, you struggle to remember what these stories were about. It's sort of probably the big indictment of the era, but it's basically alrightish. So the question at the end of air was, after that final Matt Smith episode, was, can the Moth turn it around with Peter Capaldi? And that will be my next video, hopefully next week. That'll probably be a much shorter one because there's only the one Capaldi season to talk about. So I will see you all then. You all look after yourselves and go and have some fish fingers and custard.